This is part 2 of our 3.1 lesson on angles. So what is an angle? Well, this is an angle right here. It's two rays with a common endpoint. So notice how we have ray AC and we have ray AB, and they form this angle. So the sides of our angle are really just the rays that make the angle. So those two sides would be ray AC and ray AB. There'll be a small section on your assignment that asks you to name the sides of the angle. Now, the vertex of the angle, that's that common endpoint. So it's where both of those rays are touching. The vertex is just a point. It's point A. Notice how A is the first letter in both of your rays. That's not a coincidence. How would you name an angle? Well, there's 3 different ways you can name an angle. You could use the vertex. It's going to be the middle letter, and you could use a point from each side. So if you use 3 letters, you could name this angle Y, X, Z. Or you could name it angle Z, X, Y. The order doesn't matter as long as X is in the middle. I would say about 90% of the time, this is how we're going to name our angles, using 3 letters. It really helps if you trace it with your finger or your pencil. Now, the other thing you must notice is the mark in front of these 3 letters. This is what your angle mark looks like. When I use PowerPoint, they don't have an angle mark, so I use a less than sign. But generally in your text or in your worksheets or on a quiz or something, you would see this little arc going through that angle mark. That way you know it's not a less than sign. And it's really important to put that on there when you're talking about angles, because if you don't, for example, let's say you're talking about angle ABC and you just write this down. We're going to know what you mean. We know you mean angle ABC, but this is actually read as a plane if you don't put the angle mark in front of it. So that's really, really important. Now, you can also name an angle using just the vertex. So you could call this angle X. That's acceptable. But this only works sometimes, because when you only have one angle, that's the only time you're ever going to use something like that. So this does not happen very often. Obviously less than the remaining 10%. Probably, this would probably be like 1% if I had to guess. You might name an angle using one letter 1% of the time. Again, I'm just guessing, but the other 9% of the time, there might be a number in between these 2 rays that you could name the angle with. So you could call this angle 1. Okay, but for the most part, 90% of the time, we're going to use 3 letters to name an angle. Use your finger or your pencil to trace the angle. Make sure the vertex is in the middle. Let's get some practice. This is what you're going to see on your assignment. Name the angle in 4 ways, then identify its vertex and sides. We'll just do number 4 together. You can actually do 5 and 6 on your own. For number 4, we want to name this angle. So I'm going to start by using the angle mark, and I'm going to use 3 letters. G, H, I. I said G. It's a J. Angle JHI. Notice how I put the H in the middle. That's because it's the vertex. Now, another way to name this angle would be just to reverse the letters. You could call it angle IHJ. Now, those are what you're going to do most of the time. 90% of the time, you're going to use those 3 letters. The other 10% of the time, maybe you would name it by its vertex. You could call it angle H. Or you could name it by the number. You could call it angle 2. Now, the sides of the angle are these rays. So you would name it ray HJ or ray HI.